Kuzuzangbo, Kamrimo, Sewaru, Tashdele. My name is Kalzang Dorjee Bhutia, and I greet all of you with hope that you all are keeping safe and healthy in these challenging times. I'm speaking from Los Angeles, the land of Tongva people. I thank my gracious host in Toronto, Professor Rory Lindsay, and Professor Francis Garrett for this opportunity. Finally, I acknowledge the beings in my homeland of Sikkim, which I will discuss today, including all the protected deities in my community at home. And beginning with that, I'll just show you quickly a map of all the sacred sites which all these deities are staying. So today I will talk about post-human and beyond human relationships by talking about something that can all bring us joy in these times, and that is nothing other than food, shela. So some of the items that I'm going to talk about it today, and particularly, yeah, the surprising recent rise to fame of one of the staples in my home region, that happened in 2017. One of my sister-in-law informed me of a surprising development in my village in West Sikkim. A number of our extended families were changing their usual agricultural planting patterns. Usually, instead of planting staples such as maize and mustard greens in the kitchen gardens, they were planting a popular chili, which in the Bhutia language, we call it akubari, yeah. So this chili is also known as dalle khorsani. Dalle khorsani in Nepali, the mostly spoken language in the multilingual and multi-ethnic state of Sikkim in the Indian Himalayas. Dalle here means round. Okay, so it's kind of a round chili. So from the family of Solanaceae and the genus Capsicum annum, all of these different ethnic communities of Sikkim, which includes all the people, including Bhutias, Lepchas, Suba, also known as Chongs, and Sherpa, Chetri, Newar, Mangars, all the communities, and many more. They all enjoy this chili, akubari. This change to usual crop pattern was due to economic incentive. There is an agent from Patanjali. I think you all know the famous Patanjali, an internationally known Indian household brand run by the global yoga guru. Yoga guru famously known as Ramdev, yoga guru Ramdev. There was a rumor saying that yoga guru Ramdev visited the area. That's the West Sikkim area, and supposedly he has told all the farmers that he wanted to buy their crops. So akubari was sought after by Patanjali to produce and promote akubari-based pickles and sauces for their brand. So the interest in this homegrown staple was accepted with enthusiasm, but also surprise. Yeah, so this surprise was derived from the heat associated with akubari, which I'm going to explore further. So this small round chili, which is known as dalle chili, looks deceptively like a red cherry, which is why in English it is often referred to as red hot cherry pepper. It sounds like a band name. But locals of the small Northeast Indian state of Sikkim and in the nearby Darjeeling region have been they've been historically very cautious about the amount that they serve to their guests because of the hotness. So akubare has been rated in the range of somewhere around 100,000 to 350,000 Scoville heat units. So this is less spicy than the famous Northeast Indian Bhut Jolokia. They call it Bhut Jolokia, but translated into English known as the ghost chili, which is very popular these days, even in West. Or known as Naga Jolokia, since it's very popular in Nagaland, in the northeastern part of the Indian state. So within local households, across the different ethnic and cultural and religious communities of Sikkim and Darjeeling region, akubari is a spicy staple served either raw, just like that you can see in the PowerPoint, raw and sometimes like sliced up. It's got that pungency, or as a pickle, or dipped in sauce. You can find them on the sides of rice plates, okay, which served with rice, dal bhat sabji, with lentils, vegetables, meat, and other local delicacies. You often find them when you actually go to local places. In Bhutia language, the word we use, akubari, is revealing for what it tells us about the role of this chili in cultivating commensality in our communities. Aku literally means uncle, and bari means blazing. So so bari, it means blazing. So if you put those words, it becomes like blazing uncle. It's kind of very deadly, blazing uncle. So akubari is considered to be a kin, a family member, but one that should be respected for its power. So in this presentation, I will refer to him with a masculine pronoun to acknowledge this agency. So then the question arises, what happens when Uncle Chili, as I will refer to him here, moves beyond the kitchen gardens and forest of Sikkim? In many ways, the sudden growth in interest in Uncle Chili is not surprising, given the growth in interest in exotic forms of chilies documented around the world in the last 3 decades, and the rise of Sikkim state as a popular tourist destination, and for the state government's organic green initiatives. But these initiatives have been critiqued for their hypocrisies, as while Sikkim is supposedly organic and environmentally friendly, the government has allowed for unprecedented infrastructure projects to proceed that have been environmentally destructive. These projects, including many mega dams, have inspired activism in response to detrimental impacts of such neoliberal intervention. The movement of Uncle Chili from the tables of rural communities in Sikkim and Darjeeling to the tables of urban India can be read as yet another example of neoliberal exploitation, in this instance, of traditional food waste. Here I want to trace the movement of Uncle Chile as a way to think about the changing economic or changing economics of value and scale around him, and what the popularity of this chili suggests to us about changing interspecies relations in the Himalayas. Uncle Chile's fame was vividly demonstrated when in August 2020, the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade of the Government of India granted a geographic indicator tag to him. The GI tag recognition was hailed in the local media as an excellent marketing opportunity for akubari pickle and some other Sikkimese products. It also represents the latest episodes in the historical promotion of Northeast India as Empire's Garden, to borrow the wonderful University of Toronto historian Jayata Sharma's term. This also demonstrates Sikkim's position as a commodity forest. Sikkim first appeared on maps of British Empire due to its proximity to Tibet and for its many botanical species. Orchids and tea were both found in the forest of Sikkim and removed with other commodity items for imperial consumption. So this was accompanied by the development of plantation labor economics and the decimation of local sovereignty. In 1835, Darjeeling was leased by the British administration from King of Sikkim in order to establish tea gardens. In 1849, Darjeeling was annexed from Sikkim. In the decades following this incident, Sikkim came under the control of British, and by the time it was observed by India in 1975, had already been controlled by political officers for decades, and private companies also opened. Uncle Chili was first produced commercially in Sikkim in 1996, and this led to the creation of many local pickling companies that came up. The success of these companies paved way for Patanjali, but the creation of akubari as a product can be traced back to its position as the fueler of commensality. To consider this position, we must move back to examine whether akubari is held to have, where akubari is held to have come from. Akubari in kitchen gardens with seeds taken from the forest. Almost half of the Sikkim is covered by thick forest, since the I forgot to show this clip. This is when akubari got the GI tag. So as I was saying, almost half of the state of Sikkim is covered by thick forest, since the terrain varies so greatly from mountainous areas to low river valleys. There are a number of different forest types and many species in it. In historical Lepcha, Bhutia, and Suba communities in West Sikkim, the forest was regarded as an integral element of everyday life. In that, you can find all sorts of other things like mushrooms and herbs provided food. Fallen branches made fuel for the fire, and shelter was hewn from trees. The forest was not only a place for resources for human extraction. It was understood as part of an interspecies matrix inhabited by spirits and deities, and needed careful and respectful care to continue to establish human flourishing, and who were and continue to be frequently considered as kin or extended family for human Buddhist communities in West Sikkim. In Buddhist traditions, these beings were known as Dharma protectors of the land, word used as locally known as in Buddhist as Chekyong, sometimes also known as Yula and Jita. And Buddhism met with local traditions to develop a set of ritual practices to facilitate communications and care between humans and non-humans of Sikkim's habitat. Some of this care took the form of local prohibitions against cutting down trees or guidance about where to dispose of human waste to avoid polluting rivers and streams that brought water to human settlements from the glaciers above, very clean glaciers. Indigenous Lepcha and Buddhist spiritual life was concerned with educating humans on appropriate interactions with the forest. A local healing system known as green or herbal medicine, in Bhutia known as Homen, was practiced among villagers in Sikkim. It represented a synthesis of indigenous Lepcha and imported Tibetan Buddhist and other local medical practices, and continues in contemporary communities where it is part of the rich medical diversity of Sikkim that includes Buddhist, Lepcha, Jagri, Damai, Ayurvedic, allopathic, and other forms of medicine. The practitioners of Homen include Lepcha Bongtings, which is the Bongting equivalent of shamans, and Bhutia healers, and other medical practitioners that do not always carry titles, but are respected for carrying the knowledge of healing. To green medicine practitioners, the forest is a living garden filled with kin and relations. And their initiation and training gained during apprenticeship with senior healers provides them with a deep knowledge of the different elements of this garden. Ajo Wangyal, Homen practitioner, described this knowledge to me personally, and in his words, quote, Homen introduces us to the door of the forest. We need to know where the door is to enter. You cannot just enter from anywhere. If you are looking for something in particular, you need to tell the forest what it is by introducing yourself with a chant and mantra when you arrive. The forest will then help you to find what it is you need, but you should only take what is necessary, end quote. This concern for not depleting the forest is central to the balance that Homen practitioners strive to achieve. This balance will make humans and other beings around them healthy, humans and non-humans. This balance will lead to lack of harmony and illness. The concern for depletion was important. Early texts about Sikkim's landscape represent it as a place of abundance. In indigenous cosmologies, Lepcha or Rong communities considered Sikkim to be Maya Liang in their term, the Rong term, Rong, which means Lepcha. In the Lepcha term, the original name of Sikkim is known as Maya Liang, which means heavenly paradise on earth. In Buddhist cosmology, Sikkim was historically conceived of as a hidden land, or known as a Bayu, set aside by the great tantric master Guru Rinpoche in the 8th century to act as a safe haven for Tibetan Buddhists. After the departure of Guru Rinpoche, over the following centuries, a number of yogis associated with his lineage visited Sikkim and wrote numerous pilgrimage guidebooks to the sacred habitat that vividly describes its abundance. So this abundance was understood to be represented by many edible elements of the forest. Even in contemporary Sikkim, foraged food from the forest features in many dishes. And Uncle Chile is one of them. Uncle Chile is considered to be a forest-derived chili. And this has contributed to the belief that Uncle Chile are a native plant, a very important statement there. Uncle Chili are used in medicinal diets to help treat stomach ulcers and other gastrointestinal issues. An important reason for this is that they do not cause discomfort during digestion and bowel movements. It means it doesn't burn. The heat is not as severe because you can tell from the easy bowel movements. Uncle Chili can also be an appetizer and are seen as efficacious for people experiencing nausea. And Uncle Chili, along with other forest foods, may well have originated in other parts of the world, but their habituation to Sikkim's forest and widespread use has rendered them as local. So in West Sikkim, the forest is a place of abundance, but also danger, which is quite interesting in that way. Special spiritual preparation is needed to successfully forage in the forest. This spiritual preparation is tied to acknowledging the other inhabitants of the forest. These inhabitants include spirits and non-human animals. In Sikkimese Buddhism, many of these animals, including the red pandas, which is very popular, it's a national animal, red pandas, flying squirrels, tigers, which is very rare now, boars and bears, and even birds are considered to be protector deities of the region. Many mammals live in high altitude forests rather than near villages. However, Himalayan brown bears and tree bears are quite common. In West Sikkim, they are referred to in Bhutia as Akutom, which means Uncle Bear. So then question arises, what does this title reflect about interspecies relationships in West Sikkim? Do people understand bears to be their uncles? Such naming indicates another form of the types of relatedness chronicled by anthropologist Radhika Govindrajan in her ethnography of interspecies relations in her research in the Central Himalayas. In Bhutia language, the use of the term aku is specially loaded. I've already talked about the meaning of aku, which means uncle. So use of aku, which is uncle, is actually very loaded. This is due to the patriarchal context of Sikkimese society, where uncles play a significant role as father figure replacements. They can be also as mediators for arranging marriages. They are also very important for settling land disputes and other forms of community ties. We can talk about that later. Their significance and authority to shape the lives of those within their family groups makes the title aku representative of power and need for respect. So Akubari is named Akubari because it is a Chile worthy of respect. Rinchen Chogil, Bhutia man in his 90s, explained to me that in his words, quote, Akubari are so hot and they can burst your heart. Oh my God, they can burst your heart. You need to be careful with them and eat them slowly or tempered with other flavors. Otherwise, your heart will burst. In same way, Akutam, Uncle Bear, are deadly. You need to avoid them, or if you see one, get down on the ground. Get down on the ground. Akubari and Akutam are uncles because we need to respect them. If we do, we can live together, unquote. Yeah, the title of Aku is there for cautionary, cautions. Its use establishes relations between humans and other species in the landscape, and it demands, I think, appropriate interactions. In an extension of appropriate relations, bari, meaning to blaze or burn, which is the Chile, bari, which means blaze or burn, can also be used as a name for humans, very interestingly. In West Sikkim, it is regularly used as part of an informal name in Bhutia and Lepcha communities to indicate that an individual is quick to anger. Yeah. The nickname acts as a warning to people approaching the bari, approaching he or her or they, approaching them, to be aware of their temper because they are so hot that without any reason they might just spark at you. And it is additionally a way to chastise the bearer of the name, to control control their anger, basically. So yeah, it has got many connotations there. So this connections to ethics and relationship is illustrative of broader way that Akubari views relations. Akubari are no longer commonly found in the forests, but these days instead they can find them in kitchen gardens near rural houses, and you can find them in pots in the terraces in the urban settings, in the urban houses, where they are cultivated for cooking, fermenting, and even as medicines. Hospitality and commensality are major concerns in Sikkimese life. In Buddhist Bhutia communities in rural West Sikkim, interpersonal relations are highly mediated using body language and language registers according to different ethnic and religious groups And these concerns for acknowledging hierarchy are also embedded in relationships with other non-human inhabitants of the land. Many regular Buddhist rituals held in Sikkimese domestic shrines are related in some way to hospitality and feedings. Chilies are not directly offered to the deities in these rituals, but they are offered to lamas and other ritual officials, along with other delicacies such as gyari and momo, which is famously known as momos, dumplings, as well as other products from kitchen gardens, including cow milk cheese, millet-derived beer known as chung. So akubari helps to balance food and taste, and is believed to heighten enjoyment, thereby fueling the rituals. So akubari are also offered to the deities indirectly through their non-human consumers. Here it's very interesting. You can find this. A frequent lament. I'm sorry to show this late. These are some of the delicacies that you find, and you can see in the middle, there's akubari pickle, chilies at the side. Here is dumplings, momo. And of course, gyari, I can't show it today because that is much more traditional. This is more of a tourist kind of food. And you have different sorts of akubari pickle here with different other pickles. Must be bamboo shoots there. And then mushroom, not mushroom, I'm sorry, dumplings, momos, with again pickle there in the middle. So apart from that, akubaris are also offered to the deities indirectly through their non-human consumers. Frequent lament during the harvest times for akubari is that farmers all too often find them on the ground already consumed, because there is one bird that actually attacks this chili. And this non-human culprit is none other than, in Bhutia it's called, the name of the bird is called Tephinam, and in Nepali it's known as Kalchura. And Tephinam, the Bhutia name, also can be, there's also a different name for Tephinam, which is also known as Hlai Pichung. Hlai Pichung means the bird of the gods. In English, it's known as the blue whistling thrush, a common species of bird that is found throughout Sikkim. So these small birds are famous for their distinctive kind of songs. They have got a very sweet singing tones, and Tephinams are heard twice in a day singing, especially in the morning hours. Somewhere it'll start somewhere around 6:30, which is very early, and then it sings around evening times, which is around 4:30 to 5. And are associated with Buddhist practice of making water offerings in the domestic shrines. So in the morning when Tephinam sings, it means it's time for offering chopa. In the morning, they are believed to wake up slumbering Buddhists to get them to make morning offerings, because people are a bit lazy in the morning. So whenever they hear the song of Tephinam, it makes them actually wake up from the bed. Whereas in the evening time, they remind people to empty the water bowls and clean the chosham, clean the shrine. So Tefinam have an unusual appetite for akubari. If there's one human or non-human, species that is to attack akubari, it's none other than this bird. So akubari is seen then as a fuel for their prayer reminders, and therefore plays an important role as part in an interspecies chain of offerings. So they can also be the interesting part is they can also be offering in themselves, which is quite sad actually. The bodies of newly hatched Tefinam chicks, when they're very, very young, they are sought after by healers, as they are held to be effective medicine for respiration problems and even piles. Ooh, that's a bad news for Tefinam there. In response, Tefinam, they build their nest in a very difficult places, like for example in stream areas or in the rivers and even in the gorge, where it will be very difficult for humans to trace their nest. So yeah, akubari is therefore the central point in an intersecting system of relatedness. Eating and commensality fuels part of this system, but behavioral and ethical guidance is also part of what makes akubaris so tasty as food for thought in village Sikkim. So how did Uncle Chili become popular and known to companies such as Patanjali? Very interesting question. This shift to new scales reflects Sikkim's history. In the decades after Sikkim became part of India in 1975, new roads and hotels were built to cater for a growing tourist industry. Well, there was an inflow of tourists seeking the mountain vista views. There was also an outflow of Sikkimese young people seeking education. And as time went on, employment in the cities on the plains. For Sikkimese migrants, the cities were as sites of opportunity and education, places to gain experience that they took back with them to their state. In the cities of India, Sikkimese migrants often band together with other Northeast people due to shared experiences of prejudice and racism. The wonderful Northeast Indian anthropologist Dolly Kikon has written powerfully about how this prejudice and racism is often connected to food differences. Sikkim's young people from across different ethnic and cultural groups that I interviewed, who had studied throughout in the cities of Delhi, Calcutta, Mumbai, Chennai, and other important places, relate to me their excitement about returning to Sikkim during holidays so that they could eat beef and pork and some of their other favorite delicacies. For many years, akubari pickle was homemade and sent with students packaged in recycled, what they call known as the Horlicks bottles or Horlicks containers. That's Horlicks is a drink. So whenever the drink finishes, the empty bottles are used as chili containers. So in the 2010s, most Sikkimese young people stayed on in cities after they found employment soon after their graduation. So this meant that there was an increased demand for akubari pickle, or akubari chili, in the Indian urban centers, which has led to the development of mass factory production and entrance of national chains such as Patanjali. Corporate interest in Akubari and its potential for mass production and the GI tag have been loaded for the opportunities they will bring to Sikkimese producers. But ultimately, as Sarah Besky's work on Darjeeling tea has suggested, the benefits of factories and GI tags respectively do not always filter down evenly to those performing the labor or communities who live around or are displaced by production centers. In Sikkim, the growth of interest around Akubari led the price per kilogram to drop because so many farmers were growing it with the hope that Patanjali would purchase their crops. In villages in Sikkim, anxieties about popularization and commodification of Akubari and the potential downsides of the GI tag are not often the center point of discussion. Instead, concerns and questions about Akubari's change of status revolve around a crucial element of Akubari, that is its taste, the taste that matters. In West Sikkim, Selron Dichin, a woman in her 90s who began growing Akubari in her kitchen since her childhood days, lamented to me as follows, in her words, quote, "Akubari doesn't taste the same anymore. It just isn't as hot. That flavor isn't there. When we were young, there's no way one people could have eaten an entire Akubari with a plate of food. We just needed the tiniest sliver to get the taste. I would use just the tiniest sliver in making an entire karai of fried rice for my children. But now you see, people can eat the entire pickle Akubari without any problem," end quote. So she speculated that the decline in spice may be due to the commercial growing practices now common for Akubari. Her friend Pasangki, a lecture woman from the same village, agreed. In Pasangki's words, Akubari had such a strong and a distinctive smell. There was nothing like it. These new ones are different. They are less delicious. Such concerns were echoed by many other community members that I talked to from across different ethnic and age groups. When I mentioned the Scoville score or the Scoville scale measurement, that put Akubari at a much lower pungency than the Bujolokia or the ghost chili. They were incredulous and stated that this was further evidence that Akubari has been modified as it has spread. Just as Akubari becomes accessible to unprecedented consumers and is claimed as an exemplar of Sikkimese identity, the authenticity of this widely available Akubari is contested by Sikkimese consumers and kin. The multi-species relationships that connected Uncle Chili to human and avian residents in West Sikkim have changed as Akubari has gone from being a local crop grown for household consumption to nationally circulated commodity pickled in large factories. These changes represent new economic opportunities for villagers, an alternative model to monocrop cash crop that dominate West Sikkimese agriculture and generate new communities for urban Sikkimese migrants. But they also bring new forms of inequality and fundamental change in commensality and kinship across species and beyond the humans. Concerns about authenticity reflect these changes. The question remains, in the future, will there be enough Uncle Chili to go around? And will Akubari's status as an uncle continue to be acknowledged? Thank you so much for listening to my presentation, and Tuji Chila.